mentor more women in technology. Okay? And Debola, I'd like to hear what your measure is, what the call to action is as we round this off.
So you know, I'm laughing at Patty. Because can any of you raise your hand? How many male mentorship conference you've heard about? If you've heard about any male mentorship conference in 2017, can you? If you've heard about any? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. If you heard about at least 10 mentorship conferences in 2017, can you raise your hand?
True.
People are engaging women.
That's true.
But they are still facing the roadblock.
That's true.
So my point is not to tell to stop it from telling the woman she can be all that she can become. No. My point is we need to solve the bottleneck. While you are raising strong women, you still need to kill the patriarchal mentality that these men have and reduce it to a balanced sense. That's all I'm saying.
Fantastic.
So what you're doing is fantastic, but let's just balance it because we'll keep conflicting. And I love the example she gave of Barbies and Legos. You know, we need to be able to give our children to pick. But that's here now. If your boys start playing with Barbie now, you will all cry. Church. So you see that. Now the final thing I'm going to say is that not for any minute reduce the things that women do to express themselves, like beauty and makeup. I always believe that it's you do with what you have. It's not what you have. Tara Felado Otoye, 19-year-old makeup girl on campus in Lasso. Today, 27 branches in Nigeria. I think 5 branches in Africa. Her business is a model in Stanford, in Harvard. And she's 40 yet? She's just 40. So it is what you have and what you do with it. You know, it's not about makeup. It's not about music. It's not today people have been singing. It's not people have been doing tech. Before Steve Jobs started trying to create a computer, other people have created computers. We heard about Steve Jobs because of the work he put in it. You know, so let's not for a minute, you know, trivialize the things, bead making. I mean, the woman that makes moi who cooked moi for Michelle Obama, that was just moi, which is cooking, which is a predominantly women's skills in Africa. So it is what you do with what is in your hands, be it tech, be it business, be it anything.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Debola. And I would like to, before I do a recap, a final note from you. You know, certainly in their speeches, they've actually given us action. Our party believes that more mentorship, deliberate mentorship actions should be taken. Debola believes there's a bottleneck. So even if you climb up the ladder, there's just a narrow hole for you to walk through. And he believes advocacy, you know, reworking the paradigm, the culture of a patriarchal society, will go a long way to helping what we're talking about. And then, so what would it be for you?
What would it be? I would like us to change our mindset of how we view. So we keep saying getting women into technology, but really technology is an enabler. It's a process, it's a system, it's not a thing on its own. So first of all, I would like us to view things, to start changing how we see technology as something that helps you achieve a goal. So for example, you have an idea or you have something you want to do as a woman or as a man to go into agriculture. So what you think of is how can technology help me achieve this end goal and increase my output, help me reach my audience, help me be competitive, or help me interact with someone who is doing it according to best practices. So because of that, you begin to see it as a woman as something you need to learn. You begin to see technology as something you need to engage in, something you need to improve in. So what I would want to encourage everyone here is see technology as a friend. See technology as something you need to advance yourself. And because of that, you begin to think of it as not a male-dominated area, but something you need to learn to improve yourself, to become competitive, and to engage yourself in better things. That's what I would have to say to everyone.
Thank you very much, Nkechi. Round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much. Would like to move on to questions and answers. And I don't know if there are people in the hall that like to ask questions. I see a couple of hands.
Hello?
Can anyone help us get the mics to them?
Good morning. I want to say a big thank you to everyone. My name is Rume. I'm from Warri in Delta State. And first of all, I have listened to each of the panelists, but very basic things I wanted to share. Like, before I'm asking my questions. So the question is, you talk about direct mentorship and all that. I want to bring an example. Now, we are all aware of these beautiful 3 Nigerian girls who represented us at the Winter Olympics. That, for me, we understand. So now the first thing is, how many women used their social media handle, repost, and appreciate, commend that effort? Now, that is very key to getting women to start appreciating and wanting to be like them. Now, taking this now to as community schools, like Mr. Debola has said, how many now come back? What are the plans are you going to put in place to take those girls to secondary school so that other girls can meet them and decide to want to be like them? If you are not doing these things, how do you now begin to correct the mindset of what plans, are there plans that you have in place that when, for example, these 3 girls that come, when they come back, that you're going to take to these schools to start, so that they can become examples and people now want to be like them? I did plans for such, where women begin to appreciate women that are around, role models that are around, speak to them so that young people can,
best mentors, female mentors out there than male mentors, yeah? So what are we doing? I'll start at what I'm doing individual, and then what we plan to do as the Yali Network. So as an individual, for example, I started my life in Benin City, and Benin City is, when I mean my life, my career life, and Benin City is not to compare to Lagos, right? We have over 700,000 people in Benin, and let's assume there are more females than men. As an individual, what have I been doing? In my own little space, every time I am asked to speak concerning anything, I attend it. You get. And going to schools, I founded an NGO called Sabi Hub, and what we are doing is basically mentoring entrepreneurs and getting them to see how they can use technology to solve social problems. So Edo State is known to have agriculture as a major thing, but more women in agriculture than men, and more women in the village in agriculture than men. That's what data says in the States. So what do? When I go out there, I reach out and as much as possible, try to see as an individual, to share the knowledge that I have, share what are the best practices out there that people are doing and bring it locally. So that's good for every one of us. If you see a woman doing something, it is known that we ladies, we like to beef ourselves. When you see someone being successful, you first of all get angry before you say, well done. It's a known fact. So that alone, we too as individual ladies have to change that. If you see a woman doing something out there, encourage them, retweet it, talk about them. Let's be our own champions, yeah? It's very important. So that's on one part. So as an individual too, recently, okay, let me not go too much into that. As Yali Network, we just started the Yali Women in ICT page. Please, I encourage every one of us to join, and also encourage all the women here to reshare it. The link is on the screen, bit.ly /Yali Women in ICT. What we are doing here is to showcase women who are doing awesome things. Let us tell our own story. Let us change the narrative out there. So please join this platform, and as many platforms as you see out there, women who are doing great things, join them and let us advocate for our own selves, because the men, they don't seem to be willing to do that, right, Adebola?
Can we have it on the screen, please? I don't think we have it on the screen.
Yes,
please
it's actually there, bit.ly /Yali Women in ICT, and also everyone who have registered for this will send this link down to each and every one of us.
And so as the Yali Network, that is what we're doing in line with what we're saying today, to inspire, to educate, to mentor, and then to bring more women to the
take the education down to them.
Fantastic. Patricia, would you want to add anything? All right. I think there was an extra hand. Did I see another hand? Okay. Let's take a woman, right?
Yes. It's about time. My name is Margaret Okojoko. My question, I think every one of you on the panel can answer. First of all, fantastic discussion. Thank you, Debola. You said a lot of wonderful things this morning. For Nkechi Code for Africa, I want to know what exactly you are doing in your own space to put women in the limelight and encourage young girls to want to code. I want you to just give us that brief, because it's a bit still very strange to a lot of people. So I want you to just talk more about that briefly, and then Mr. Debola, I liked what you said about the cultural thing, the cultural effect on, the impact we're having today is what we are told. As a
introduce you to my co-panelists, because that's what I'm going to call them, because I'm kind of a fake moderator right now. Yeah. So we have in the house Dr. Kemi Da Silva Ibru, who is the founder of WAREF. Kemi, please join me. We also have in the house, possibly the only male feminist, at least on this stage today, Ms. I have in the house the founder of Stand to End Rape Nigeria. Ayodeji, please come on up. Thank you. Before we start, we're going to show you a short video. It's about 3 minutes long. So please put your phone on silent, please, or on vibrate. Thank you. Play the video, please. Are we playing the video? Technical issues. So we'll continue. Since the video is not ready, I'm going to ask Ayodeji, who is one of the ladies on that video, to tell you her story. Ayodeji.
I moved back to Nigeria 10 years ago, and I started work in the public space. And very quickly, I recognized that there was not any infrastructure in place for young women who would come into public health facilities who have had awful acts of sexual violence occur, and oftentimes are met with suspicion by the medical staff. They are questioned as to why it was that they were in that space, what they were wearing, who it was they were with. And no one was addressing the obvious concerns of needing a medical attention, social counseling, etc. And many times these women would be treated and sent back home. So I can understand when you mention, Ayodeji, that you, when it happened to you, unfortunately, you couldn't find infrastructure in this environment to assist you. So what I decided to do was incorporate a foundation and use that as my vehicle. And therefore, we would be able to implement initiatives that were not just impactful, but we could measure. Because Nigeria is not a country that's known for measured data. And so sadly, when we talk about this problem, as we talk about any problem, we're always hard-fast to use anecdotes like we have a large percentage of women, but we can never quantify it in terms of numbers. So if we can't quantify our needs, how do we address? We're open 6 days a week, and including all public holidays. And so we have full-time staff. We have medical physicians, we have social workers, as well as administrators. 50% of us are women, and we're relatively young as a country, so over 60% of us are under the age of 24. That's 10,000 girls every day, ladies and gentlemen, that are being raped and violated as we speak.
Thank you, Dr. Kemi. I believe the video is now ready. Can we play the video, please? Whilst we wait for the video to play, I'm going to read out some statistics. So in Nigeria, believe it or not, there are only 18 to 20 rape convictions. That's out of even the minor few that's been reported. Only 18 to 20 rape convictions. The UNICEF report says 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys has experienced sexual violence before the age of 18. 31.3% of girls said their first encounter had been rape. Their first sexual encounter had been through rape or forced sex of some sort. In a state in Nigeria, which I won't say right now,
set out for me or something. He ripped my cloth apart and
Are you okay?
I should be.
He said, "We're not happy with you, and we're going to deal with you." At that point, I knew I wasn't safe, but the car was locked. So I kept struggling and struggling with the car to open the car. I couldn't. Eventually, it stepped on the brake, and I opened the car and I ran. But that day, I was on braids, very long braids, and that's why till now I don't do braids. And so he pulled me back by my braids and dragged me on the floor. And this man violated me upon begging and screaming and yelling, telling him that, "Oh, I am a virgin, and, you know, please, I'm keeping myself," you know. All of those fell to deaf ears, and he vowed me. And he left. And I took myself, I went back to my house.
This person who worked in our house, he was male. He always took me to a room at the back, and where he would try to touch me inappropriately and make me touch him inappropriately as well. And for a long time, a lot of those memories were even suppressed, to be honest, until I started working.
There's a mic there. Uriel,
yeah,
please.
Like the video said, August.
Sadly, it takes a hashtag and a campaign to bring us all into a room to discuss it. When we talk about campaigns and we talk about hashtags and the power behind tech, I can't begin to tell you the advantages because each and every one of us can clearly see the advantages. Whether it's a Me Too campaign or the Time's Up, which is another one that's becoming more popular, or the No More campaign that Ireti has been pushing forward. The important question is, and then what? So we have these amazing campaigns, and then we talk about them. Some of them are more popular than others. We like these campaigns, many of us. We have blogs, and quite rightly, we're outraged about the issues behind the campaign. For me, working in this space, what I want to know and what I would like to see is how do we move the campaign to a movement? How do we stop talking about it as a campaign? Campaigns only occur in real time, and then we get bored. We talked about the Chibok girls and we talked about the Bring Back the Girls campaign until we stopped. And then Dapchi has happened, and now suddenly we're talking about it again. We talk about Black Lives Matter, and we talk about transforming Black Lives Matter into a movement. So why can't we start talking about the movement? Excellent. Is it too soon?
Thank you. Excellent question. Uriel, you spoke out about your attacker. You called him out on social media. Tell us, what drove that? What motivated that?
Okay. As at that time, after the incident, after the trauma, I had to undergo a training at C-School Apapa, Lagos. It's a citizenship and leadership training, and it was for 2 weeks. I had to develop myself mentally, physically, emotionally. I had to develop myself. And then when I came back from the training, I came in contact with this lady, Miss Ngozi. She's a human rights activist.
No more, because we all know in this day of social media, no hashtag, no campaign, right or wrong? So we're asking you all to be no more ambassadors. Imagine if every single one of you who have sat in this room and said you all know at least one person who has been affected by this ugly plague in our society. You all know one person. Imagine if you all put on your status, hashtag no more. Imagine the power of that. They can't ignore us. There are more of us than there are of them. And I strongly believe there are more good men than there are of bad men. It's just that we don't call out the bad men in this society. And at this point, I'm going to pass the mic to Edwin to speak. Edmund, rather, sorry.
I think my contribution here, being, I'd say, young business owner, and Social Media Week being a gathering of either young business owners,